study, we'll start with Dr. McKay, the children's lit class, and then on day 2, we will have Dr. Robinson, educational psychology. In our lesson study, we will focus on continuous professional development models presented by the UNCF and Talladega College Liberal Arts Innovation Center. Talladega College has been known for 153 years for excellence. This lesson study has been used at Talladega College since 2015 as a vehicle for change. The lesson study allows professors to study student response to active learning strategies. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our exemplary transformational leader, Dr. Hawkins, our president. He is the chair of 37 presidents of, he is the chair of the 37 president member institutions for the UNCF Board of Directors. I introduce to you Dr. Hawkins.
Let me say good morning. You all didn't tell me I was going to be on TV this morning. Let me say good morning to everyone and welcome to this beautiful facility. We're just so happy to see that we're beginning to utilize this space. Certainly, we build it for instruction, for folks to enjoy the facility, reception, etc. And you all can see this beautiful, beautiful facility, and we're so happy that you have the opportunity to share this morning. So, let me see, am I supposed to talk about the COVID vaccine? Sure.
We'll give you the right to talk about whatever you want to.
That's sort of my right now, vaccine, the lack of getting these vaccines into the African community. So, phone call yesterday with the governor's office trying to do something about that. So that's sort of something that's been a couple of weeks. Well, was conversation with the White House about this issue, because it's a very, very important issue. United Negro College Fund, Dr. Walter Schaefer, who I currently chair of 37 member institutions, vice chair of the board of directors of UNCF, and now serving my second term, one more term to go next year. UNCF, for now since 1944, and I've got to mention UNCF because this grant that you all are participating in came through the United Negro College Fund. You know, UNCF was founded in 1944, right in the state of Alabama, right at Tuskegee University. Talladega College was one of the first 6 institutions that were member institutions of UNCF, and so we have a long standing working relationship with UNCF. Not only UNCF has provided unrestricted funds to our member institutions, but UNCF has also provided scholarship funds. Probably some of the students that are here with us this morning have been able to access some of those scholarship funds. And if you haven't, go to financial aid. There's still plenty of funds available to access from UNCF. And then UNCF is also branched off to support the member institutions. This grant was granted to Talladega College as one of the innovative grants that they have awarded to our member institution. I think this one was probably about $300,000 grant or so, and so we're very happy that we received this grant. With Dr. McKay and Provost Dr. Long and the other faculty members, you wrote a great grant, okay? You did a great job. So I don't think you all got the grant just because I'm the chair.
We know. We know.
You wrote a great grant and it was awarded to you, and so we're just very appreciative of Dr. Will Maxson, the president of UNCF, and the great staff at UNCF. UNCF's had a banner year. This COVID-19 is involved, this pandemic we've been dealing with now over a year. And even with this pandemic, the good Lord has blessed UNCF UNCF has had record fundraising this past year. So this goes to show you that if people understand the goal and the mission and what you stand for, they do. And that's exactly what has happened to UNCF in this past year. And so we're looking forward to continued growth within the United Negro College Fund. You know, my background, I was a teacher, going all the way back. And so I've been around teaching now for almost 43 years. And so very much it's been a part of my career, and it's been about education. So it's very dear to my heart, and the importance of instruction in the classroom. If we could rewind and go all the way back, Dr. McKay, we've been talking about effective teaching for years and years and years and years, and we still haven't got there. And so that's why you all are here. That's why you all are working with this grant, because you are working to try to connect the student and the teacher. You all are trying to bring about innovative change in terms of how you connect the teaching and the learning, the student and the teacher. And in many respects, you have those two learning from each other. Now, I'm a strong proponent, always been that all children can learn from elementary up, and there's no child that cannot learn if that child is taught appropriately. And so, from the elementary, all the way up through the high school, it's about effective teaching and how we get there. Whether it is group learning or whether it is one-on-one learning, we all learn different. And that's one of the major principles that we've got to understand when it comes to teaching. Is that we all learn, if we can understand that we all learn different, that every student learns different, then we can be effective in our teaching methods and techniques that we use in teaching our students. Now, I'm gonna stop there because I'm about to start teaching you all. But again, I want to congratulate you on this great opportunity. And I look forward to reviewing and seeing the results. And as you experiment, as you try different methods, and that's okay. You try, you fail, you try, you fail, but you're going to come up with something that's very special and innovative when it comes to effective teaching and learning. Again, congratulations, Dr. McKay, congratulations, Dr. Long. Again, we thank UNCF for this opportunity. We thank UNCF for this grant. You all have a great day.
You can see at the top of the title, layers of influence and leaders. It does not happen without people like these two. And I'm not just saying that. They make it possible for us to do this kind of work. So when you all are applying for a job, try to find two, just a superintendent in the school district and lots of good leaders in the school district can make this happen. And the layers of influence start at the top. And it goes all the way down. Can you all hear me? It goes all the way down to the most important piece of the work, and that's the students. A couple of years ago, we started a lesson study team, and we started in 2018, and because of COVID, we have not been able to institute another student lesson study team that we intend to. So perhaps some of you here in this room might really want to do that. So it starts at the top and it really impacts all the way to the people that we care and want to nurture the most, and that's our students. And I hope that all of you will be that way when you have your own classroom, and I already feel that that will happen. So today we have some very important business to take care of, and you all will know that this is my famous grid. If we didn't have my grid, we wouldn't know what to do. My friends often get aggravated with me about my grids, but it keeps us on task, and we have just a few hours to spend together in this glorious holy place where teaching and learning happens. So we thank both of our friends and leaders who have been with us, Dr. Hawkins and Dr. Long, and don't let Dr. Hawkins pull your leg. I knew why we got the grant. It wasn't a grant though, Dr. Hawkins. It was very research-based. So, the research rationale, now I'm gonna ask Dr. Robinson to talk a little bit about that. Now, Dr. Robinson, you can go to the podium if you want to, but you don't have to, whatever works for you.
Well, that's my notes there.
Okay, that's good.
I always tell my students, do not read without your notes.
Yep.
So I have to practice what I preach. And I've got a teacher board, I can do like that.
And the thing that I'm realizing too, that we did not rehearse is that when Wayne finishes, we're gonna move that over just a little bit.
Today, I'm going to start talking about that. Today, we are using the innovation of lesson studies to give us data for more study and research on active learning. Dr. McKay and I have been working together in the education department since 2015. And Dr. Ridgeway came and joined us in 17, and then Dr. Clinton came last year. We knew the culture needed to change, and we knew the teaching needed to change. So we started doing some lesson studies, and then just by nature of who we are, all of us have an elementary background. So we knew that the lecture was not getting, just too much talking to the students. A lot of times they'll hear me say, I'm talking too much, I gotta stop, we'll do something else. But we are proud that our provost, Dr. Long, introduced us to AQ 2 years ago, I believe. She took a group through, and that's the Association of College and University Educators. That's the AQ's acronym for that. So we knew that Dr. Long was seeing that some changes need to be made also. So we all in the education department now, since last year, are trained in AQ active learning, and we're proud of that because it's not an easy task. They work. They really do. But you do come out with some great ideas, and we have implemented lots of AQ strategies in the education department, up on second floor vendors. But today we're going to get to put some of those strategies in place. Some of them are old strategies, but we just brought them back out. And we want to thank you again for coming and helping us with our research.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Dr. Robinson, I go way back. We were doing lesson study back before it was popular. And she and I did lesson study at Montford Elementary, and then I also had a chance to work with her son when she was at B.D. Coleman. So the thing that I want to share with you today now is what is this thing called lesson study very quickly. Those of you who have been in our lesson studies know before, we do not try to usurp your brain, but if you need help taking notes, I think I've spoken to everyone. Often people will say, well, I've never been in a lesson study and I really don't know exactly what to do. But this seems to put people at ease. If you watch what the students are doing in relation to what the teacher thinks that she's doing or he's doing, and then see how that is going back and forth. And then I love the environment and the context. And I know that these little boxes are small. You can write on anything you want to, but that may just help you to put you at ease on, what is it that I need to be doing. I love the idea of bringing back those thoughts to do a synthesis. And we do have some colleagues here today who have been in a workshop that we were able to provide with the money from UNCF. And we have Tiffany Sales, Tiffany, wave to everybody. And we have Derek Chaplin. Derek, wait. Derek's also going to help us collect our data on this and help us do the statistical part of this. All of us are pretty good at doing the ethnographic work, but we needed a statistician to help us, and Derek said he would go through AQ And he would participate with us in this study. So we appreciate Derek so much for that. I think that most of you who are younger may want a publication. I believe we'll get a publication or two out of this. And I'm just right there ready to hold y'all up and help you in any way possible. So, Andy Coleman is here. Amanda Haywood Cotton is here. I didn't skip anybody. I think I got it. But those people went through AQ. And they agreed to be partners with us as faculty. And it's very unusual to get faculty to be this involved because it is, as Dr. Robinson said, it's very, the work is, I mean, you have to actually do this stuff in your classroom. They expect it. And so everybody that went through, we really appreciate it. Not everybody can be here today. Do you have any questions about my famous grid and the packet? Everybody feel good about that? All right, so now let me go to my grid and let's see what's going to happen next. So in just a few minutes, we're going to start this lesson. And Wayne, you got it rolling?
It's running, but one woman saying she can't get in, that it hasn't started, but it's going.
Who are actually collecting data. The video will be analyzed. We will transcribe this. We will use the language that all of us are using once we start the lesson. So these little boxes right here are going to collect the decimal and I will send it in to be analyzed for the sound. So if you have one of these boxes on your table, don't mess with it, okay? Just let it roll. And it's just basically recording, not necessarily anything that anybody is saying. And knowledgeable of it. Now, Rhonda
is it working now?
Actually should be the
It is. Somebody
face
just
of
joined.
this work, because she can see things when we are in the work that we cannot see. She is in the role of knowledgeable of it. So our team has talked about this lesson. Ladies, is there anything else that you want to tell me before I get started? Any other thoughts that you all have had about the lesson? Anybody? Well, this is like getting married. Speak now, forever hold your peace.
We have, how many students do we have? 9?
Oh, yes, Melanie is coming in. Melanie, find yourself a spot. You may want to sit. You may want to, you need a shield or the table, and you can sit with this story right here. Will that be okay, Sam? All right. So unless anybody has any questions, are you kind of understanding now that these folks right here are the drivers? We're in the classrooms, we're actually instituting this, and we appreciate the students coming out on Saturday, and some people are coming back on Sunday to do this with us. So that just shows the dedication that we have. Thank you so much. May the force be with us. Take good notes. So, good morning, everybody. Good morning. So some of you already have your Chromebooks up. Part of the work that we're going to be doing today, you can draft on your Chromebooks, or you can draft just like you do in class. You can choose whichever note-taking method. If you decide to do your writing, all you have to do is basically take a photograph and you can upload it. Okay, that's how easy it is to get an assignment in to Canvas. So today, the purpose of our lesson is, everybody ready? Here's the question to think about. I want you to think about your moral principles. What are they? What are your moral principles as a teacher of children every day regarding your choice of instructional materials? You may walk into a classroom that has big packages of materials, or you may walk into a classroom like the first one I walked into with nothing. But you also have discernment about what is good for students. My question to you today is for you to question your moral principles, question what you're learning, and we're actually going to do a deep dive today into the 4 corners of this room. A further purpose of this lesson is for you to commit to actually building the social, the emotional, and the intellectual growth of yourself as a teacher. That's straight from the Alabama State standards, the Alabama Core Teacher Standards. The standard also says to monitor yourself through ethical and unbiased selections of books and materials that mirror the children in your classrooms. Did you know that a state standard said that? Not many people do because they often don't read our standards. But also the charge of the standards is for you to support the diversity in your class in numerous ways. Now, I want you to talk right now to the people at your table about what does that mean to you? What is that standard? What does that mean? Now, I believe you actually, if you have that packet, this is actually the last page in your packet. You need to go back and take a look at it. But I'm going to be walking around, and of course, we want the decimal analysis going because we want y'all talking. Go to the very back page. Guys, look, right here, very back page. Anybody have questions? Anybody need help? All right, I need some noise. Internet's already got tickled. This is something we go through every day. Internet already go. We laugh at each other and have a good time. That's what we're supposed to be doing. What does that standard, and guys, it's right here, second paragraph. What does that standard mean to you as a future educator in Alabama public schools? Some of you may leave, you may go to St. Louis, you may go back to Miami, you may stay with us for a while in Alabama. But what does that mean to you right here?
That they got logged in. Everything.
Now, lesson study participants, if you feel like you need to move closer, you can't get too close because of COVID. But if you want to walk or kind of walking and get you out a couple of students to listen in on, that is permissible during lesson study. I wish y'all would be this quiet in class. I can't tell where y'all are like. Five, 4, 20. Now, I've been a voyeur in the class and I've been listening to people talking. I know those of you who are trying to take notes can't hear. If it were not for COVID, you would be right up on these students. You might even sit next to one of them. You can't do that now. So I got to be a little closer than you did, and I heard some interesting things. Usually, I do not put anybody on the spot, but because we're probably going to need to hear a little bit from our colleagues, is there anybody that heard something at their table that they feel like they want to report out, or anything that you feel compelled to say about your response to your moral responsibility in selection of developing your own professional learning in your books? Anybody want to say anything? So lay it on.
We were just discussing the need for diversity in our libraries as teachers, when you know our students, the community that we're teaching in, and what they're coming from. And they need to see themselves in the books that you provide for them. If you're in a town and your classroom is going to be majority African American in their books, and the African American authors and illustrators. And, so they're, you know, they need to know that there's sports heroes and teachers and doctors and all that kind of stuff in that atmosphere as well, and not just show one side. Like me, I'll be Caucasian coming in the class trying to get my full African American class. I still need to. I don't need to have my own bias in there. I need to be able to be open-minded as to what community I'm in. And it's really same thing. You have both types of authors and illustrators available to me.
Anybody else want to add on to that? Sam, you were all excited over there. You want to add anything on? I know you've heard me preach and re-preach about this.
Right now, we got things freezing, so I can say amen or freezing what we said, you know. Let's see.
Antoinette, are you still down at Indian Valley? Are you still at Indian Valley or you moved on to different Indian Valley? Okay. So we had the opportunity to go to Indian Valley to San Clemente School, and I think that they have done a really good job. Is it still a K-2 school? And they really have wonderful children's libraries, and that would be a place, even though they have libraries, the first thing you as a teacher will want to do is survey what is in the library, and does it match the population of the children that you're serving. So one of the things I want to show you, and I'm going to have to move back over here, is this is going to be on your midterm, so I hope you're burning up the page. You know, I'm not going to leave anybody out here unless they have lots of notes. Let's see what I'm trying to get to here. I'm going to have to sit down to make this machine work now. So now I'm going to pull up the Canvas portal. Thank goodness that our leaders are helping us to move forward in what we're doing. So I just want to show everyone who's watching this, these are all of the assignments that we have done, not to mention all the lectures. And this is our builder. Now we are close to midterm, so I'm going to announce one more time. If you didn't hear me the first time I said it, this probably going to be on your midterm, right? So what we have done is we've used a variety of active learning strategies here. The students, I started the students out with author inquiry, and they did a lot of hands-on. We're rebuilding the library at Savory through Caitlin Cox and Dr. Long. We are, this class is responsible for developing author studies for that children's library. We've done skeleton notes on the textbook, and I know y'all are so proud of your textbook. This is the textbook that we're using for anybody who is interested. I put one on your table in case you felt the need to pull from it when you're doing your research today. So we're right here today, and this is how our assignment looks. Now, if you are stuck today when you choose your corner, which you're going to get to go in a minute, and you're going to get to read a document. There are 4 brilliant people. Radine Sims Bishop, one of my favorites, Alfred Tatum. Both of these are university professors who are known for their stance on matching books to readers. Then we have Jacqueline Woodson, and she is famous in her own right. She, of course, is a writer. We have her whole collection. Carl, where are you? I just shipped Carl the collection. He's developing that collection of Woodson books for Savory Library's children's traveling talk for that children's library. And then we run across this sweetheart who is publishing children's books and has her own book imprint. So she got tired of, and she said, you know, kids want to read stuff that's just regular stuff. They don't always want to read about Harriet Tubman. Y'all know me, that hit me a little bit because I do love Harriet, right? But it's not just about social studies. And we do have someone in here. Khadijah, you want to share with them a little bit about the book that you read?
Yes, my name is Khadijah White, and I got a book of her early Sunday morning, and it's about a little girl who stole from her fears and singing in front of a church choir. It's a really good book, and I like her teaching methods on how to get to it.
So now you know what your job is. You've got to pick out one of these. You have your packet with your reading materials. You get to choose the corner. You don't have to stay with the people at your table. If there is a corner that's not populated, I'll try to go to that corner and serve in the role of student in that corner. So take your packet now and flip through it. And here is your assignment. Are you ready? All right. At the corners, you have Redeem. Dr. Bishop is here. Dr. Tatum is here. Jacqueline Woodson is in this corner. And Ms. Milner is over in this corner. You will take your packet of materials. You will examine the written word about what these people say and what is our topic. Children's literature and books for the classroom. And your selection of that in your heart of hearts, you really believe that it makes a difference based on what you're going to read about what they say. So you're going to the corner, and this is an active learning strategy that's in your packet called 4 Corners. I've not used it with this class before, but I use it every so often. SED 241 loves it because it's always packed with active students and advanced students in there, and they love to do the 4 Corners activity. It's a physical as well as an intellectual active experience. Now, here's what you're going to do. You and your group may annotate your choice of the posters. And you've got poster boards on your table, or you've got the post-its you can hit. You have to write on that. We don't want to get any anything. So make sure you're actually charting and doing any writing you want to do on this. We're going to set these up on the table. Carl, can you flip around there and move Alfred up? Thank you, Carl. Just set him up on the end of the table. So let's just say that I'm doing this corner. This is corner 2. So I'm going to read about Alfred. I may annotate. I may write notes on that. And you as a group can pick out the person you want to do the writing. This table has got the queen of the person who does sketch to stretch. You can do a sketch to stretch if you've done one of those with paper before. Or you can just do a plain old anchor chart like you would do in a classroom if you were reading. You're going to read, you're going to write, you're going to talk. What is my mantra? What do I say every day? Talk builds comprehension. You cannot deeply comprehend anything and understand it like you will if you will talk to the people who are in your 4 corners. Now, here's the gig. You know, that's fun, right? But you got to come back and you got to report out, okay? And I'm going to look at my time now and see how I'm doing. I think I'm doing good. So I'm going to make sure that I give you plenty of time to talk. The other thing that you can do, you can fully fill out that anchor chart. You can design it any way you want to. You can sketch, you can draw, anything that will help your memory about this person. You're going to pick one person or 2 people or the whole group can talk. Then you're going to come back and you're going to talk to everybody in this room about this person and how they might help you to answer the question of the morality and the ethics of your choosing your own literature in your classroom. I'm going to read this up so you can refer back to it. Okay? What questions do you have? What comments do you have? Be brave and don't stay with the same people who are at your table. Get up and move around, mix and mingle. Choose one of the corners now. You will need your packet with you with your readings. And those readings are at the back of the lesson study. Anybody have questions? And you can take a computer, you can walk with a computer if you want to draft with your computer. All right, we've got a taker from Alfred Taylor, I like him. Let's see where everybody is going. Thank you, Dr. Collins. We're so glad you could live with us. If you all can move up, just, we have to do the 6 feet, need to move to a group, feel free to do that. There are markers and things on the table. Y'all, I'm gonna bring like some cheerleader. Y'all know that I was a cheerleader in high school. I'm not gonna bring that one there for talk about. But I am gonna say, oh, enjoy, have fun. If you have questions, I'm coming around for the forms. I don't know after the time. What time did you spell?
Connection, because right.
That's how I get the council from that.
Right. And that's how I said, why I need to focus on like the clock on the wall, because like, I had to leave songs and I could, but I could do it, I just have to be relaxed. She's saying that she wants the best like and it was a book that she like followed that. Yeah. Because
I know that's what you are.
So why did you choose this one? Why did you choose this one? I chose it because I think I can play alcohol in the club. So I just, this is my first time, like, working. Who did you pick? Okay. All right.
So when you can do it, so that people can see it on the. That looks like y'all are going. Everybody okay?
You want to do that job, so you can go ahead and just do it.
Right with the front on.
Yes.
This person raising the table, answering the question about the moral stance. You can turn around now and look. What you're gonna look.
You guys have to That's the story, you know, it's not about just African American person, any person. Right. Maybe not related to them being in church.
So anything that, you know, first time, when I first started, I know my first time, y'all was. I said, go. You get so many thoughts running through your head, like, Lord, please don't let me fall, let me keep up, let me go, and do, especially for people that don't have to jump the hurt. You know, I can imagine what people was saying now, they have to have hurt, but like, to make sure my front and my back leg go over the hurt. And you have to jump every Yes.
Or
So, you know, whew, I know you're generally be rushing.
I know when I used to play soccer. Keep running, just keep running. I was like, okay, but I'm breathing in myself like,
Right.
no, I'm gonna go that way. No, that way. Just gotta like stay motivated. That's the moral of the story.
Right. And be comfortable, like I said, just for the time that her, she made you feel comfortable and that you can do it.
Y'all know George Harris. Draw the church, draw a church, 'cause I drew a poster board thing, but I don't know how to draw no church.
You a little slow.
I feel something like they were great. You know? See what kind of tips she got.
Yeah, my honey bun.
I'm on more of a visual audio line, so
That was sexy. We stepped in to do whatever was necessary to make it good. But I had to carry my voice to be
She kept reading this for sure. I had to read it or something like that.
Does it help you get more insight as far as our basis? So you can like the papers more.
So you don't have to give it behind the sun. This person.
Well, I just like that's the cable out you can see.
She says a lot in that one. Okay, I need a quick please from 5, 4, in and I see them, we're doing pretty good, but y'all are slow. Slow intellectually, but slow with your thinking and your drawing. And you know what we tell in the classroom? Just get it down, you can pretty it up later. We're gonna be working on it for several days when we go back into the classroom. Get your main ideas down, and remember, you're gonna stand up with this poster as a team. You're gonna tell, what is it that we're telling? Raise your hand if you know. Who knows? What are we trying to answer? Look up. How do these researchers and writers impact our thinking about our moral responsibility about how we're choosing literature, reading, any text in our classroom? I'm gonna take my time, because you know we've got to come back and pull back together before we finish. All right, now let's do a quick time check. Everybody turn around and let's look at our time. We do this often. Now you will have a timekeeper in our classroom because I get a wax and line too much. Let's see where we are. All right. What time is it? It's 9:50. We have a little bit more time, but we really want to hear y'all present these in a talk, okay? So let's keep working for another 5 minutes and be ready to present. So that's
That's nice.
being trained to say this to other people. Because you will be working with people who don't believe in using it. But if you've been with me, it's hard not to do it, right? So you have to be able to articulate why you're doing it and why you're choosing it.
I couldn't because, after I finished reading the package, she did say that, she wanted to like get the kids experience like they, and so I feel like they took time to realize what to do. And that's how I feel. They can connect because they already experienced about it, and that can be a literature within that.
Okay. And also remember a real powerhouse in there, so they can take those words and express themselves. They can use those as mentor tips. Okay. Thank you. I think you're on to something I really like. The ideas that y'all have, and I'm going to be able to articulate and say it.
I don't like my
Always the complaint with some notes about the moral stance that we should take in the choosing books. Now, one thing that y'all can do, I think everybody has this, if you want to write all of the same, you can actually take that off. It's a paper. So you're feeling like that this paragraph is powerhouse. Okay, I think it's important for them to know that you all have chosen this. And then remember, connect it to how it impacts you and your morality and how you're going to choose this. Okay. Now, Rena, your job is before everybody shares that, I'm going to put yours up and put the dealers up as a point. I love it when you talk about potential lineage. And when you think about the lineage, you got to really know your students. You can't just go in there and teach a curriculum that's all involved. You can do it, but you have to match and be ready to Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. All right, that's a very elementary process. Let's everybody give me your attention and let's tell our colleagues who have been observing us today. Every time in class, we have content and we have process. The process that we have been using today is an active learning technique called 4 corners. They've been reading, writing, talking. They're going to be speaking and they're going to be listening, which is a living example of an elementary language arts platform. So what you're doing right now is living as adult learners what you want to have happen in your elementary classroom. And I want each one of you just real quickly to think about, how does this feel to you as a learner? Did you like this? Did it put you too much out of your comfort zone? Do you feel, how do you feel about that learning? Just say that to yourself and don't say it out loud, just say it to yourself. How did this feel? Now, remember that when you stand up, there's no right or wrong, but you are going to be able to present this out. Now, I'm going to give you another scaffold. I'm going to pull up a couple of examples. I've got 2 students who've already posted to the portal, and I'm going to show you. I've asked permission. I'm going to show you some of the things that they are putting up.
Because when you leave here, you're going to either want to do a quick video clip of your presentation and post it, or you may want to take a photograph of your poster and post it. The more you post, the more you'll have for your midterm. Remember what we're doing right now, we're building academic language to explain to anyone why we choose what we choose for our classroom libraries and the literature that we read aloud to our kiddos, right? So that's morality. If you don't remember what I said in that standard, perhaps I need to find it and read it out loud one more time. Because I was the one who wrote this. And when I went back and read it, I thought, oh, that was such a perfect standard for this. How clever was I? But I didn't even realize how clever it was until I started to work. So listen up. A further purpose of this lesson and upcoming lessons for you as students is to commit to building social, emotional, and intellectual growth of yourself. The expectation is in the state of Alabama that you will continue to come to my professional learning here, and you will continue to learn, okay? Then they say your growth of yourself as a teacher through ethical and unbiased selections of books and materials that mirror the children in your classroom, as well as supporting the diversity of the class and you must love. Alabama Core Teacher Standard 2A on the website. Pretty powerful, all right? Now, let's take just a minute, practice a little bit about how you're going to present. You might want to say it, and then the show goes on. We've got good time, just what I'm trying to change.
Stay there.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up an exemplar. A couple of places gave me permission to do this. I'm going to pull this up so you can actually see what they put up. Now, can I have your attention just real quickly? This is Khadijah's response. She did this, I can't get an assignment up, and she finishes it, and a bunch of y'all are like that. And when I'm not putting something up, and if I haven't graded, I get text messages. I love it. So here's what Khadijah has said. She gave her personal opinion. Now remember, you're working in a team. San Bernard and I are going to try to present Alfred together. He was actually my favorite of the group. And because we're a little short-handed today, she and I are going to present hers together. So this is what Khadijah said. Just take a minute and take a look at what she said. She actually used Lotus Wonder and Wow. If you do that, Khadijah, explain to me why you use Lotus Wonder and Wow.
Because notice is like what caught their attention, and the wonder is like, how can I relate this into reading for young children? And my wow moment is how the teachers have the students actually read more and have them inspired to read, their minds going down that.
Okay. And so you see she's done this assignment, and she also answered her question. Now she may want to go back in, and if she does, that's fine. We can make sure that if there's something that came to her today that she learned today, she wants to keep adding on to that. You remember, I often tell you anything that you turn in It's powerful if you run it through Grammarly and if you run it through spell check and you make sure it's right, if you use the citations. That's power, because now you're beginning to have a repertoire of small writings about this topic. So when you go to the board and you're asking for money, when you get your job and you're asking for money for books for your classroom, all of this can be used. It can be used on your midterm too. I'm gonna keep talking that midterm. I'm gonna pull up Rena's. Now, you all that are in here as observers, one of the things that I learned when I came to Talladega College, remember, I was not trained as a career academic, but I have done professional learning for adults for years, and I work in classrooms every day. But one of the things that I came to grips with is that the sooner I can get my students thinking down on a piece of paper, the more likely that they're going to internalize that and utilize it in a way that you can actually bring it back to be useful for them. If you talk about some motivation, if you tell them that they can pull up all of their old assignments to answer the midterm essay, that's power. Because all of a sudden, everybody wants to make sure they have all of the assignments, because they know the more language I have, the more academic language that I have, the more likely I'm going to be able to explain this in a way that's power. Language is power. Remember that. So Rena wrote this one. Rena, you want to talk to us a little bit about it, or you want me to talk them through it? All right. So I love that she said, she started out with, I believe that the ethics definitely plays a role, because it's the teacher's responsibility to choose a diverse selection of books so that all students feel included, and ethically, this is the right thing to do, because as a teacher who is a woman of color, students should know the good and the bad of their history. And it's about time that all students learn about different cultures, because it's important. Now, Brenda is on her soapbox. And I love it when Brenda gets on her soapbox, because when Brenda speaks, I listen. And it's true with all of the students. But what I want Brenda to do now, and what I want Khadijah to do now you have some clout to back up what you're saying. You can say, in class today, I used Jacqueline Woodson, and you can cite her, and guess what? You've already got her in APA on your window. You don't even have to struggle through APA, but I do want it cited, okay? So what questions do you have now before we present? Thank you, ladies, who were willing to share your uploads. And I take anything that I can read, and I'm pretty good, I can read pretty much anything. And I make a comment, I'll make comments to my students here in the portal. And you heard now today, it's primarily been a day of me giving oral feedback. But tomorrow, I may take up some of the student work, and I will give feedback on that. We may take these charts, and we'll take these charts back to the classroom to be used when we get back into the classroom. All right, everybody ready to go? Okay, let me check my time. Okay, I think we said we had until 10:40. Let me cross check.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, we're good. Now, just in your time, remember that active learning is not cheap. It's expensive, and you pay for it in your class time. Now, what I'm saying to you, in my heart of hearts, I think I'm pretty good, but I don't think I could have evoked what you're about here. Because, remember, we talked about English language arts, reading, writing, speaking, listening, creating visual representation, all of that they have done, and they're about to do it again. That's how you remember, and that's how you build comprehension. It's not by listening to Becky talk to you about what she knows. It's about reading, writing, speaking, and listening to colleagues. So I have the group that you, Jacqueline Woodson, will present first. Now, I will ask everybody if you need to put your pens down. If you're right in the middle of something, don't worry about it. It's all good. You can finish it later. We're gonna take these back to Andrews. And I want, as you are presenting, I want them to be able to see the document that you have access to. Let's just say that you decide you want to really expand your repertoire and you want to read the rest of this. Because remember, I chose these for a reason, didn't I? I chose them because I knew they would give you some good academic language. I had no idea who would choose what though. The power in the four corners, and if you're one of those teachers that likes a lot of control, get over it, go do four corners. Because you may have to be the one speaking in one of the corners, right? The idea is choice is a big deal. Okay, so group 3, if you all would stand up, intro yourselves, and let's get with it. Ready? What they call it? Good host.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Candy. I'm Takia Brody. And our author was Jacqueline Wilson. We would like to start out with an icebreaker, asking you guys, have you ever picked up a book you could not put down when you were younger?
Ooh, thanks. Y'all know that?
Anybody would like to say why? Anybody want to give an example why like that was your favorite book you didn't want to put it down? Or what book did it relate to something to your life?
I couldn't hear, say it again.
I said, would anyone like to elaborate and say why that was your favorite book?
Okay, but somebody said something after you said that.
Then I said, did it relate to your life?
Good, okay.
Dr. Clinton?
It was very interesting and I could relate to it. And I just could not put it down because I wanted to keep reading and find the end. I wanted to know what's gonna happen next.
Well, what's the title of the book?
Oh, I can't share.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Clinton. At the age of 6, Jacqueline started reading a book and it was called Match Girl. The book she could relate to her life because the book Match Girl was about a girl who was selling matches for her family. Jacqueline would read and read and read that book because she was like, she could relate to it. She read it so much that she was finally like, it doesn't have a happy ending. So because of that book did not have a happy ending, it caused her to want to start writing books that would have a happy ending.
All right, so as she stated in the book, she said that she wants to change the world that the girl had to live. So therefore, when you have your students, you want to know what's going on in their life, so therefore, you pick the book that they relate to for life. Also, yeah.
If y'all want to look in the lesson plan that Dr. gave us, it's the last page about Jacqueline Wilson. It's the last paragraph. So we was discussing at our table that, and even though you want your students to have like different culture type books, you also want them to feel a connection from the book. So as Jacqueline stated, she wrote books because she wanted to influence other writers and she wanted to influence students to be to write. And she also said she wanted them to find their own voice. So if you have any shy students or anything, they can find their voice through writing. And you can talk to the students and you can see that, I mean, you know your students in classroom, you will know who gonna talk and who you have to like, come on, I need you to talk a little bit more, elaborate on that. So you can use your books also do that. So you don't also have to have books like culture and diversity. You can also have books that can bring their voice out and they can find themselves, especially if you have younger students. I mean, you're involved as a human, so you can find that through the books. She also said that every day that I sit down to write, I think I'm just here to get them a couple of tools. So just like I stated, the book could be a tool for them to find their voice, and I think that was very important, as she said.
We'll go back and get ready. You know, you can take those photographs of that and turn it in. But I also want to say, the more likely that you will be to use it, like when you're with time or on a pen and paper, you can easily type it up or spell check on it, the whole 9 yards. I didn't see any major errors, but now remember, I'm not grading for errors right now. I'm grading, can you answer that question, right? Did you answer it? Thumbs up, if you think you got it, table 3. Now, who are you quoting? Yeah, Woodson, right? Pretty amazing. Carl's gonna give us a great author hub using her book, so you may want to tap into that when you finish. All right, San Quentin, show you and I got together on the Alfred Tatum. Yeah. All right. Now remember, our question that we're trying to answer is how will Tatum impact the choices that we make and the way that we feel morally about the choices that we make in our literature selections. I love to put y'all on the spot and say, be ready to talk to the school board. Because if you're out there asking for stuff, you need to be ready. And this is a good exercise for readiness to speak to people. All right, Sam, I can be your chart holder and I can help in any way you need me to.
Okay. You can just jump in, don't you?
I will do it.
As you feel. Okay, I just want to introduce Dr. Alfred W. Tatum. He began his career as an 8th grade teacher and later became a reading specialist, discovering the power of text to reshape the life and outcomes of struggling readers.
Can you speak up? They can't hear you.
Oh, they can't hear me. Okay.
Now, I know that San Quentin can be loud.
Okay, Mrs. Dr. Tatum was an 8th grade teacher and later became a reading specialist. But he also discovered the power of text to reshape the life of outcomes of struggling readers. To me, that hits home because to me, I don't think I'm a struggling reader, but I know I can advance, you know, in my reading period. But I chose him because he had a lot of points that stood out to me.
And she's made these little legal things right here, tags.
The first one is reasons to read. And one of his statements or things that he had presented was that they say, you know, most of the time teachers say the kids just don't want to read. You know, that's like one of the nights they want to read, the teachers say the main reason, you know. You know, I guess sometimes it's excuse. But Tatum states that presenting textual lineage, meaning, you know, give meaning, give kids a reason to read so they can see themselves within that book. And that will motivate even a struggling reader to become a reader. And once they become a reader, they will improve their comprehension and understanding as well.
Want me to go off the rails on textual lineage?
Go ahead, Dr.
So I first got to know Alfred through the language, the academic language of textual lineage. And San Quentin and I had a powerful conversation, and I had several epiphanies on textual lineage because I struggled when I first started reading Alfred's work because I felt like he did not give me enough specific examples. Finally, I got it. You know, sometimes it just takes you having a conversation, and it came to me how to explain that and how to deepen that in my own understanding. Thank you for being my talk partner.
Thank you.
So we discussed textual lineage being like the lineage that we have with the parents. You know, my mother was a Sparks, she married a Burdett, and we had a lineage of the Burdetts and the Sparkses. Well, the same is about, we think that that's the same that he's talking about books. You are built on your lineage, your textual lineage, by what you read and who you read. And I think that makes chill bumps on me. And thank you for letting me be a part of your group today because until I talked about it with you, I really kind of would struggle to try to understand it in classes because it seems extremely, almost too academic, but then once I thought about, no, it's not really. he just put it plain language, I just didn't get it, right? But thank you, Santonette. What else would you like to say about that?
Next, I said motivation. The motivation should be wanting to see a change. You know, everybody in this world, no matter what culture you are, you would like to see a change. And so, as Dr. McKay mentioned, I have my first thing, you know, that it starts with all these leaders in here, you know, administration, and trickles down to us students, you know. So as teachers, we have to, you know, lead the kids or guide them in the right direction, the students in the right direction. By being an example. So the goal I got is creating lessons that has a personal connection, empathy, and identity statement. I also wanted to go ahead and say that the professor here, Dr. Hayden, he was presented as a standard. And like Dr. Hayden mentioned earlier, you know, someone gonna look at those standards, you know, refer back to them or practice. But I saw here, you know, we had went over in our class a couple days ago, reviewing ethics standards, Dr. Robinson. And one of the standards that resonated with me with Salem was standard 4, you know, teacher staff relationship. And that was fulfilling the roles of trusted mentor and advocating for student growth, you know, and also nurturing the intellectual, physical, emotional, social, and civic potential of all students. So,
Woo, that was a mouthful. I'm loving it. Kudos to Dr. Robinson.
Let's just wrap it all up and sum it all up, you know, refer back to the standards as a teacher candidate. We are trying to practice what was free and learn. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Angela. I only got 15 minutes. Okay, let's go now to, this is like what's behind the door, right? Let's go to Rudine and then we'll wrap it up with Ms. Lorraine Miller. Okay, go ahead.
We tried to do a sketch this grade, because I'm a very visual person.
You want me to hold it?
I can hold it, you know.
I've gotten real good at being hold it hands over to the side, so both of you all have your full potential here.
Get behind it.
So, Sam, can you see this? Here, wait, I'm gonna have to move that. You guys can stand up. What do you think? Can y'all see it? Too far away? Okay. You know what, why don't we put it in this chair? How does that work for y'all? And I'll hold it like this. Can everybody see? Okay. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna open up with a quote that stood out to me. So she said, leadership transforms human experiences and reflects it back to us. I chose that quote because children, when they read books, they can compare the books to their daily experience or lives. So I chose that quote. It stood out to me. And we did a picture. This is the window, and we did the window because with the sun, with the rain, because she mentioned something about the glass door.
And the sun rays comes from the quote down here. These windows are sliding glass doors. And readers have only to walk through imagination to become part of whatever world has been created and recreated. And so the first thing that came to my mind was a big window, looking through that window and going, I can do that, I can do that. And the rays of sunshine that comes through when you have books in your library, in your classroom, that child can see them as they read that book. One of my earliest memories of a book that, as group 1 said, that you just couldn't put down is my mother brought me the whole collection of the Little House on the Prairie books. And I loved it. We loved the TV show. And I couldn't wait to get to the next book. Couldn't wait till nighttime so I could lay down and read my book. But, and that's when I first got into reading. I was not a good reader. I could not comprehend what I read. I was in a Title I reading program when I was in elementary school, and that was the first series of books that made that light go off, all that ray of sunshine come in. And, as she said in some of her words, she wanted to include all races and genders and areas of employment and things that children can look up to and inspire to be. She was all about inclusion or community, introducing multicultural aspects into her classroom and also into her books. Listing experiences, yes, we need to know the history, but we also need to know what we can do. Developing the mindset of I can, and then being able to reflect back, like when they read a book, their imagination can just go, wow, that's what they can be. They can be everybody, can be teachers, police officers, astronauts, authors, poets, scientists, lawyers, doctors, environment, anything you want to be, you can do that no matter what diversity or whatever or that you are labeled as. You don't have to be labeled.
These are treasures. We're gonna hang these up. Thank y'all so much. Last but not least, our corner forward with Mrs. Lorraine Milner. And I'm happy to help y'all chart, or I'm happy to do whatever. What you all need me to do. Maybe call it. I can do it for you. So we did pretty good over here, I think. I don't have like that. Can you all see it that far? One? Yeah. Okay, you're ready. A one and here's that.
Okay, have you ever had a time where you was in front of like a crowd or stage right at a performance or a site or something? Y'all should talk about it. Basically what Denise Milner talks about is a little girl who's overcoming her stage fright and performing in front of a church, in front of a church. And how I related this story to Ruby Bridges, because Ruby Bridges at the time, she was going through a segregated situation between transitioning into a predominantly all-white school and living in a Black community. So how Milner and Ruby Bridges connected, that really transpired the whole event.
So, again, our person's name is Milner, and the question that we want to answer is why you do it and why you choose it and how do she impact you as a teacher. And we all came together and just said that I'm nervous now. Right, but okay, but we talked about how Ms. Milner, from the book early Sunday morning, how the little girl had Jenny, right now I have kids, but anyway, I'm going forward. She just give us a lot of courage to embrace our new students that come in that may have the same duties as we do. And her books help us to feel comfortable to encourage our students to be brave and stand out. And Ms. Milner also wrote stories about everyday beauty of being a little human being. And she also wanted to write books to reach all students, not just Black, white, all students. And I like Ms. Milner's passion, how she had a desire to connect with everybody, even adults, like even before I knew we were last, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm still nervous. But just, looking over her passage, it just shows that she is a very passionate writer. And one thing that stuck out to me in the passage is that pushing past fear is hard, but with help of family, you can learn to be courageous. And then I'm gonna let Ms. Shamar talk about her pictures.
The picture I drew was, what we felt like Miss Denise Miller, made her classroom feel comfortable and connected. So I made a bookshelf, with, you probably can't see some of the writing where I wrote some authors on the book were not, different authors.
They're on here.
Different books. So where students can connect or find a connection to those books. And, then I drew a table with some snacks for the classroom environment. You know, because some students be hungry and way off the subject, be over here. So snack is to, get them to focus, to communicate in the classroom.
Let's see, to close out, because we're last. Let's see. We wrote on there that, on the little bullet points, we said that Ms. Miller, she makes you feel comfortable, open, and motivated to push you to be a better person, to step out of your comfort zone. And right now, at this moment, we're stepping out of our comfort zone, speaking in front of everybody. Thank you so much.
So just quickly now, you have to do a quick write. You have an assignment in your portal. If you would go and do a quick write as a final summary. The words are there for you. I don't have them before me. I think I have asked you to respond to the process of 4 corners. How might you use that active learning strategy? And then I want you to speak again to the content of how this activity and these authors and writers have impacted some of the moral decisions that you might make as classroom teachers. And I really would like to go back to my original premise and say to you, I knew this would be good. And I want to say, I didn't say this when this class started, but I knew that this group was a special group. Now, I will tell you that all of my groups are special, but there has been something interesting and special about this group. I cannot wait to see what they actually produce for their midterm, which is the first week in March. And I'm gonna pull up now, just in case you need help with that quick write. I'm going back to the original assignment in Canvas. I don't want to get grades, but I want to show you guys grades. It's long enough, and I really like something. So I'm going to that assignment so we can read exactly what it says, so that you can do that quick write. And I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. What is your takeaway from today on the process of 4 corners and the content of the ethics or morals of choosing books for your platform? You can write it, you can describe it, you can script it. It does not have to be perfect, it has to be readable, but I would encourage you to go in and type it. And then you can do a cut and paste, you run a spell check on that, grammar, the whole 9 yards. And you also want to cite the person that you studied. And that has already been done for you in the past. But you don't have to do that right now, you can do that later. Just get your thoughts down now. while you're finishing up, I want to ask a favor of you. Oftentimes when we're doing lesson study, one of the best things we do is we actually look at student work, okay? So if you would give me permission to either share your handwritten document, your photograph that you're gonna upload in the portal, or if you would give me permission to share whatever you have typed, I would be delighted to entertain that with our colleagues if we have a little bit of time to look at student work and what they have said in these quick writes. We may or may not do it depending on the time, but is there anyone who would be willing to share and let us look at what you have said at the end of this activity? Anybody? All right, she'll let me pull her, or you find her here. Okay. Anybody else? I really only need about 2 or 3 because when you're looking at student work, you're not looking at every piece of work. Okay, anybody else? Would anybody else let me share? I've already shared a first thinking that Khadijah and Rena had. Carl? Okay, got 2. That's all we need, 2. And in a minute, the participants are going to have time to get up, move around. And while y'all are doing that, the team needs to do the same thing. My colleagues in the education department and our knowledgeable other, Dr. Rhonda Sutton, and you as students may stay with us and listen to the rest of the lesson study, but you do not have to. You can get your things and you can go, or we would be tickled if you all wanted to stay, but you are not required to do that. Let's kind of police up our area. That's a military time to clean up your stuff. All right. My colleague has set the time. Finish your last thoughts. And you put you're going to do this electronically. And I have really that same grip. Okay. Okay, 5, 4. Remember, this is not written in blood. You have more time to work on it. I only need 2 people that would let me share them. When you later in the afternoon over the weekend. I don't think it's due for a while. I think I've given you a little bit of time to work on it. So you don't have to finish it right now. I just wanted the lesson study group to see the quick write and how, if we're doing a lesson study, this is a really quick way to get a quick assessment. One final thought for those of you who do not know us as a group, this was the beginning, pretty much the beginning assignment, and we will work through about 3 other assignments. And then this will be a big part of bringing everything that we've done since the beginning together for the midterm. So I just appreciate y'all so much. Really, I do.
Thank you.
So thank you. Let's give the class a hand. There are donuts in the back of my car. There's water in that kitchen area. There's candy. I'm not encouraging y'all to be a bad eater, but it's best I can do. There's chips and all of that. But you're free to go. How many people are going to stay with us and watch the whole thing? And how many people are going to go? Raise your hand if you're going. Okay. All right. If you're going, go ahead and clean up. And those of you who are participants, Let me look at my time schedule. I think I've given y'all a good little bit of time to now formulate your thinking. This is the point where you are going to do your sentences.
That one's still got Paul.
Okay, I'm off 7 minutes, come back at 11 o'clock. You have until 11 o'clock to prepare your thoughts and your responses to this lesson study. There's water, there's food in my car, there's donuts, get yourself. Y'all need it, y'all need it. Y'all clean up your area for me and then,
Make sure you guys got.
say that again, make sure the mind that.
Let's just make sure that you turn your boxes on. Yeah, why don't you do that? Most of them are out of bed. I know one or two.
I'm trying to get some students.
Dr. Robinson, sorry.
We're not supposed to be here, but, yeah, but we're not.
Yeah, that's the.
No, we have about 4 minutes, and we're gonna sit up here, and, Andy, and Tiffany, and Derek. We're gonna go first, they'll give me feedback, I'll talk about Melissa, and then you all can bring together some ideas and some things that you all think, will resonate with you, and that might resonate with other people at the college. So we just want to get your feedback and see what you're thinking so far as to what you're saying. All right, I'm gonna go round up through, I suspect you're in those donuts that way. He goes to Birmingham, once a week or so. My son travels through Birmingham, lives in Birmingham, so they don't travel. So it's like he likes to wear it. So he buys himself risky. What is tomorrow, somebody will share first. Okay. We've all been out there in your trunk. I don't think I would have to bring any more computers, I just need to bring the solution to clean them. Because I checked that they're all good trunk. I've got some clipboards. I'm fine. You're one.
Oh, yeah. Everybody. Yeah.
Don't let me tell us, this is crazy. We're not doing this.
Still.
Every discipline is not limited. I can see that.
Experiment.
I can see that you do it in some classes.
Well, consequence, a whole ethics thing, so I'm gonna use that, because that's specific, so. That's, I just gotta work on some other stuff. Readiness, huh?
It's just,
All right. Yeah, I went to school with, I'm sorry, I was on the radio, former district manager, DM, Ozzie Newsom.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I went to,
Yeah. Went to school in that?
went to Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time, he and I usually act like old and more, but the last reunion we actually got along.
I think he's getting ready to retire.
Yeah, he is.
You know, he was such a good GM, I think. Yeah.
High school students,
Okay, if I can get everybody to come back, here's how this is gonna be. There are gonna be two groups. The first group is the teacher, the knowledgeable other, and the education department professor, but they're gonna sit right here, social distance. The second group will be the AQ group, so you all will be the last ones, and then I will summarize it, okay? So this right here is where you all will come, and I think there's only four of y'all, right?
Yeah.
I know there is things like to watch it, you know, I don't know, I think that the last person kind of got weird. I don't know exactly what happened.
So you're doing this one first?
Yeah, we're gonna do the group that did the lesson first, and then y'all will come second, okay? Yeah.
CJ Moses.
Oh, yeah. Alan, I need your help.
I didn't want to say.
I need to know, I don't know what happened.
He was calling. Where I am, won't be able to say.
They say you came around. Oh.
No fun.
CJ Moses.
Don't have to be social distance. Don't have to be social distance.
Socialist, that's, I can't remember the white branch.
Yes, yeah. No, the last group to come in will be the AQ, and then you want Dr. Long to have her say too, once she hears the feedback. So then you need to, come on up. Just let me move over. Wayne, am I getting too close? Am I getting too close if I move over? Make sure your cameras.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
You get me right here?
We'll make a
Oh, you don't have to.
No, not seeing in the video.
Okay, in the lesson study, this is what happens. I'm not gonna start formally, I just want everybody to kind of get situated. So the first person that gets to talk after the lesson study is the person who taught it. And that kind of, a lot of times for people who are trying to get feedback, that kind of lets you off the hook. Because if you're just dying to say something and you don't really know how to say it, a lot of times the person who's doing the teaching realizes it too. So I always let, like, the person who teaches the lesson goes first. Then we will have the team give whatever feedback that they would like. Now, listen, y'all know that I will remember what you say, but I'm not gonna write it down, but I should do, okay? But Wayne is gonna have it in video. And so you all will go, and then Rhonda will listen to all of that, and Rhonda will end that piece of it. And her role is, remember, she doesn't really know, she knows us, but she doesn't really know us. So she's gonna bring to the table a different lens for us to look through. The knowledgeable other is critical in an event, and a lot of times, Andy, in math and science, you will have people who are scholars in the field who will serve in the role of knowledgeable other. And we have some over at Kennesaw that I know that do this process. I would love for us to be able to do it, mathematics and science. But I don't know if it will ever happen. It has, it would have to be, people have to do this by choice. It's not something you can make somebody do. So, let's see, I have put up Kaya's, response. And I'm gonna let my students, I'm gonna open and just let my students, their response to what I thought I did, kind of speak. Now, if we were in a lesson study that went all day and we were gonna have lunch, we would take the student responses and we would go through a process of looking at student work. But because we're gonna end this at noon, we're not doing that. I'm just, remember, you only really need 2 or 3. And I just took volunteers. So if you cannot see this, if you want to turn your head up, projecting up here. So remember, this is a rough graph. She's agreed to let me use it. And I want to read out loud for those of you who will entertain that. I apologize. She just says, on the question, does a teacher selection of literature for classroom libraries involve ethics? I believe the teacher selection of literature for classroom libraries involves ethics because as a teacher, your classroom library should be very diverse and each student should relate to at least one book in your classroom. As a teacher, you should not be biased in your classroom because the students that you do not incorporate in your library will feel bad or they will feel no connection. It involves ethics because ethics is the concept of right or wrong behavior. As you teach, it is your duty to be ethical and model being ethical. If students in your classroom want to grow up and be a teacher, then you should model how a classroom should be. Even if they are younger students, they will remember how your classroom was. It's pretty powerful. I'll take it. Remember, this is the first series of lessons, and I love it. Then she says on the 4 corners, remember, I'm trying to do a process and content. The process today was 4 corners. I do that because I know that they will not remember 4 corners if they don't do it. But if they like 4 corners today, they might be able to use that in their classroom teaching. So I model usually some kind of a process with my content. So Takai talked about the content first, the ethical questions. She says, my takeaway from today's process of 4 corners is a group of people taking an author, a writer, etc., and breaking down the meaning of their work. The 4 corners is a good way to educate a group of people and give them knowledge on how they can take an article and grasp the concept they can use in their classroom. The content of the ethics of choosing books for your classroom was very helpful, and in my personal opinion, every teacher should have known the information in a way. I say this because you should want your students to make connections with books and see that authors write about people of color and different cultures. Also, I think that besides the ethics part of choosing books as a teacher, you can use the books to educate students on different topics and cultures. All in all, my thoughts on 4 corners process and the content of the ethics of choosing books for my classroom is that it is good to learn these types of strategies and content so you can be an effective teacher in your own classroom. Thank you, Takai, for letting me share. Here is the second one. All right, this is Shamarla. Shamarla was sitting right here. She was the one that was doing the drawing. She said, my takeaway from today's lesson on 4 corners was communication, teamwork, critical thinking, and connections. Collaboration came in handy and pushed me to speak out to be heard. Speaking gave me courage, and I felt brave for doing something I wasn't comfortable with doing. So she wrote mainly about the process. And she will turn in her other reflection on the takeaway of the morality of choosing books and the ethics of choosing diverse children's literature. So I think my big takeaway from the lesson was I might have been too informal, and I don't know how people will perceive that, but I act like I act in my real classroom. I do not have, because I don't have a lot of energy, but I try to portray that I do. And I think that I was pleased with the way that people received the message. One of the weaknesses in everything I do is timing, and Mandy sensed that, and she brought me a timer. And I really struggle with time. I always have. I'm a slow starter, although I feel like I did pretty good to get it kicked off. And I will tell y'all, strangely enough, I was not nervous. And it's just, you know, for me at this point, it's just kind of what it is, because I can't make it be anything other than me. But I know that my timing needs to be stronger. I felt like that I was strong in going around and speaking to the groups and supporting them. I wish I had had enough. I wanted to write, but I will just point out to y'all that I left my notepad at home, but I could have done the draft on here, but we were projecting from this. So I feel like a weakness that will show up in this is that I did not take copious notes on what was happening, but remember, I will have the video. So, and I will watch it and take notes on it and all that. I think overall, I like the way that the four corners worked out. I think it gave them a way to move around. If you have students who need to be active in your room, I think it's wonderful. A lot of people can't entertain that because they cannot stand all of that movement and all of that stuff. I think the students, you will see many of the students in here who have had years of this work with our education department. So they understand and know that part of expressing their learning, I believe, is through the talk. Now, they were not loud. You know, we were trying to measure decibel analysis. I don't know if we got any data on it, but it's going to show up. The activity will clearly show up on those videos because they were moving around and they were talking. And I gave them choice. I could have, some of you may be offended that I let Sanquinette work by herself, but having choice to me is a big deal on something like this. And I never really realized what a difference that made until I taught college. So overall, I'm pleased with the lesson. I think it was a good kickoff. It's a good first lesson. And they will take this writing and they will add these little snippets to bigger pieces of writing, and it will get longer and bigger and better. I hope you notice that I'm an old National Writing Project person. I take first drafts as they are. I take them any way they give them to me, and then when they start to draft on the computer, and everything they do, I don't have a draft on the computer, but if they turn anything that they can run spell check and Grammarly and all that on it, I ask them to do it. And that's pretty much it for me. I like the lesson. I got kind of scared last night. You know, I do it every time I teach publicly because I thought, what was I thinking? This is not going to work. You know, and then today I just said, just let it go, because it was too late to do anything. And because I'm very busy, I didn't really have as much time to really reflect on this lesson as I really wanted to. But thanks to Rhonda and my team that gave me feedback, I think if you all had not given me that feedback, I don't think I could have done this. Because you didn't say anything bad about the lesson, but you clearly said that my question needed to be, you know, I still didn't use Rhonda's information like I should have, but you all were helpful. You gave me feedback, and I appreciate it. And, you know, I can always get better, but I liked it. I mean, I didn't think it was bad. I think what y'all say. Who we go next? Over here, my colleagues.
I thought it was a real
I'm
strength.
sorry, we're gonna like give you a mic for your comments. If you would mind.
We want to hear it, but I apologize. I've got to tell y'all who's going to put a mic on.
For the team.
Hey, Carl, just drag that around so it's not, get out. If you could just, because you can pull this one on the chair, you go behind everybody, so we don't have to.
And I'm going to draft and just take some notes on this so that the students can see, like when you get feedback, it's a good idea to do notes of some kind. And the beauty in videotaping is you have it, but you have to take time to watch it.
We're ready.
One of the things that I really enjoyed was the beginning, because it's very important to activate students by having them internalize your message through what they already know. And we know that when the question was asked and they had to respond from their own lens, that they became more comfortable because they had a better idea, they were able to see and feel what was about to be discussed. And we know that students do well when they're able to link new information to what they already know. And I thought that was a very effective way for that to be done.
And you know what, I don't think I wrote that formally in the lesson, that was one of those things I thought at 2 o'clock this morning, to have them talk about it. And I don't think I wrote that in that formal plan, I could have, I don't know. Thank you, Dr. Newport.
I just want to say that I thought it was very effective. And it also opened them up to engagement and being active learners right off the bat.
I'll go. I thought the way we kept reminding them of the question kept them on task. That's something that I've got to try to remember to do tomorrow. When they're in groups like that, I found that they tend to get off topic or not be as focused on exactly what they're to do. But no, these that I observed were very focused and they knew what they had to do. And I thought the students did a great job pulling out a presentation in that short period of time. Because that is not easy to do. But they actually, and I didn't hear them talking about it, but they knew who was going to speak first. They knew and they shared. It didn't seem like anyone was left out of the presentation. And that's a positive.
If you don't mind, I want to respond. I think it was very interesting, and students will tell you, I don't micromanage, but I do have tendency sometimes to overdo, and all of that. But today I didn't, and I think I'm glad that I didn't, because everybody kind of knew, that they had it in their head. It was interesting. That was very interesting, wasn't it? That people just. And I loved it when some people opened with a question to the audience.
And the icebreaker.
Yeah.
I know where she borrowed that from, and that's a positive for me. I love it.
I actually concur with Dr. Bridgewater and Dr. Robinson, especially referring back to the question and reminding the students of the question. Walking around, you being actively engaged as well as the students being actively engaged, kept them on task. And they were really, really connected. And you could tell that they were connected in their presentations and as they were working, as I walked around and listened to them talk. And they could actually connect, for example, this table here, they could actually connect with the Milner in the book. I heard them talking about the choir, how she, one of the students said, yeah, I was nervous too when I began to sing in the church choir. So at least as they stated, making a connection with real life experiences is very, very important. And that was very evident today.
So if I may, this is a little bit out of protocol. We usually don't do this, but I'm going to go ahead because I'll forget it. If you don't mind, if you'll indulge me. So I did think that it was interesting, but I want to tell you all, I sweated blood trying to find the right excerpts. And I had 3 good ones and I needed a 4th, and I prayed on it and it happened. And what was interesting about Dwayne Milner was what she said, if you have a chance to read what she said. And we also had 2 students in the classes who had deep knowledge of 2 of these people. Khadijah had read Milner's and written lesson plans on Milner's book. And then, I lost my train of thought. Carl has, not Milner, but Jacqueline Woodson So, the kids knew some of these. Now, they did not know Rudine Bishop. I had talked about Alfred Tatum, but Sanfordette really does not know how she helped me to be able to articulate Alfred Tatum. So I think that was real powerful that they did really connect. And these are not hardcore research pieces. I never start with a hardcore research piece. I start with a blog and a video, and then we go to the hardcore research. But thank you all for that really good feedback. And I know that you all work with these students too, so everything that we have been able to do together, there are 4 of us, and we all, are kind of focused on the same thing in our own content. I think it was really helpful and powerful for me to have that opportunity. But I guess my question to y'all would be, it would not hurt my feelings if you saw something that you thought was strange or off or made a suggestion. I'm wide open to it.
May I say something?
Absolutely.
And you stated that you allow students to have choices. And I'm not a stickler for symmetrics or whatever, but when you encourage them to move and mix in, and they went to the 4th corner, but they did not. And I was thinking, well, maybe we should count off and assign them to groups, or maybe even beforehand, because I was talking to one student. She said, well, I watched the video and I read up on this one particular author, but I couldn't get there because nobody moved, so I had to do another one. So that was just one.
That's interesting. See, I didn't know that. And I did think about organizing it a little bit differently, but then I thought the time that it might take, and also that people were kind of nervous. And I thought, rather than turning the apple cart over and making people, they seemed to be kind of, they had kind of a comfort zone with the people that they with. And I like that idea too, because usually when I do 4 corners, I rarely ever have anybody that has just one person in the corner. But I also thought that was brave of Sanfordette to do what she did, and I thought it was, I didn't think it was a bad thing, but I wish that we could have had a couple of other people, and I think it would have worked out, But all good feedback, and I do think that there is a time like to do the counting off and all of that. But I did want to really, I really talked to them a lot about choice, about books and having the reader's choice. And so I wanted to kind of model that today, but it was kind of disconcerting. And I really thought that there would have been more of an even break, but it just worked out that way. But I felt like Sanfordette, she was a champion, in that she did it without being phased. So thank you all so much. And I've taken some notes, I have taken copious notes, but I have projected them. I'm not nervous, but I know everybody's tired. I know y'all are too. So now comes the part where
Dr.
we have
McKay,
knowledgeable-
there's a
yes.
comment on the chat that I
I'm
think
sorry?
there's a comment on chat that somebody put in that I was going to
Okay,
share.
go ahead.
Alicia Curry says the students incorporate a lot of the things Dean McKay modeled in their presentation. Examples: icebreakers, opening presentation with a quote, tech self-connections, utilizing the author info to find voice, and etc.
And y'all, I'm telling y'all, Rhonda, you haven't been around us a lot, but we do this big dance we call summits. And last January, we had a summit, and the whole thing was on voice. And we got our money's worth out of that. I still have kids talking about voice, and they write about it a lot too. And voice is something to me that's hard to explain to anyone, but voice is I think, it's pretty powerful. So, Rhonda, I'm ready. If you want to give any, we'll take what we can get, and any questions that you have or anything, I'll try to answer it. So Rhonda's acting in the role of knowledgeable other. Rhonda and I met in another life, very briefly and fleeting. And I like her, and my friend likes her. And so when we thought about this role of knowledgeable other, we often have knowledgeable others come to our summits. And but you seem to be the perfect fit for this role. And I'm not trying to flatter you, but I think that, I mean, I just love listening to you, you know, like, I'm just wide open to anything you say. That's all I'll say about that.
Well, I want to start off with saying, you know, I enjoyed being here and watching the teacher candidates demonstrate their understanding of the question that was posed in the lesson. And it was a comment that I think all of your colleagues made about the question, keeping the students on task. And one of the things I was wondering is, how impactful might it be to have the question posted so that every time you're restating the question, you're restating it in the exact same way? Because I think I heard the question restated.
Yeah.
I could make the assumption of what you were saying, but I think students heard it differently every time you said it because you said it in a different
That's
way.
true, and it's a true weakness of mine.
Yeah, so maybe posting the question would be really helpful in keeping the consistency of the question that's being asked, so that all the students are answering that exact same question.
Right.
Voice was amazing to hear their voices as they connected to the text. And I think the text that was selected was text that allowed them to make that connection and share their voice. I'm not sure the text allowed them to grapple with the question. It kept, like, I think their sharing was very surface level. It was what the author said, but not about my understanding of my morals and how my morals would impact my decisions that I make in the classroom. So I think as an initial lesson, the text didn't allow them to really grapple with that enough, and maybe choosing a little bit more complex text. Another thing I was thinking about is having the students make connections between what each group shares. So the group shared, and that was it. We, you know, as a community, we are not pushing each other's things about what we're even sharing. So what are some ways in which we can make connections between the groups and push the group's thinking forward?
I might try that as a starter when we come back on Monday.
The notion of the students not moving, I chuckled a little bit when you said that because college students typically don't move. They won't, right? They sit at the table with the people they always sit with because that's their comfort zone. And I do agree that counting off when you're doing these kinds of assignments is to count off and mix them up. Because what I think as a community, what we really want is for them to engage in diverse thinking too, not necessarily with their friends who think just like them or agree with everything they say just because they don't want to push back or hurt their feelings, but to mix them up so that there is that leveling up of their thinking and pushing their thinking forward. And the one young lady who was in the group by herself, not knowing their students really well, but that didn't surprise me about her. It absolutely did not. Her personality and just a little bit of time that I've observed her, it makes sense that she would step outside of her comfort zone and push herself to do that, right? And so it got me wondering what could we do to support all of the students in feeling that confident that they could push themselves to step out and do something that I'm going to the group where there's no one yet. I'm going to do this by myself.
She was really interested in taking. So, I mean, kudos to her.
Yeah. So those were the things that came up for me.
Good feedback.
And thinking about this lesson and what I observed.
So I'll respond and say that you give me some good food for thought. And I think to start back into this, and I'll share with the students, you know, the feedback, and I think it's well taken. I appreciate it very much, and I think that we can start back in using some of this. But I will tell you my surprise is, and I don't know if it's, I just didn't think about having them count off, but I kind of like it. Because it would have kind of put an edge on things that was not there. But I don't have to think about that. whether I would have done it in this setting. I definitely would do it in the classroom, but whether I would have done it in this setting, I have to think about it.
Well, you know what, it makes me think of when you say that too, for teachers, to keep it standard. The goal is to help them be prepared for all settings, right? So whether we were here observing them or not, they were functioning just as they would in class,
Oh, yeah.
right? So I think in a classroom, as the instructor, my goal is always to push them to their edge and hold them there, right? Hold them to that tension, because that's where the learning happens, is in that tension. When I can sit back and kind of be relaxed and just myself, I'm not pushing myself to learn. So as a person in charge of facilitating the learning, I always want to push them to their edge and hold them at that tension. Because in that tension is where that learning is actually gonna happen. They have to grapple with it when there's that tension.
I'm trying to get that down on my watch.
I'm ready to be recorded and I don't have to repeat what I said. I don't remember what I said.
That makes me, that comforts me, because often I say something, I think it's pretty good, and then somebody says repeat it, and I can't remember it. And I certainly can't remember like I said it, but I think I got it. Okay, thank you so much, thank you all, and now we're going to bring our team up, and we will end with this, unless we have students who would like to respond, and we have not thought about the students' response, because I had no idea who would stay. Would you all be willing to just give a quick response after we hear from our colleagues from AQ, who are the other professors who are teaching here, who have been studying this? Would you all be willing to? Okay, that'd be great. So we're gonna move, and we're gonna let the other group move up. That's Tiffany, Mandy, Andy, and Gary. I'll stay with y'all and facilitate. If that would be helpful.
Sure.
Say what? How are we doing on time? What time is it? Okay, so for those of you who do not know, read all of the grant, I do have the original grant, and if you want to read it, one of the things that comes out, like when you're trying to institute any kind of innovation, you really want to take hold. I found that the thing that I never really understood as a teacher, I never had the opportunity to really, when I was really fully involved in the classroom, I was on a lot of leadership teams and things like that. But the layers of influence, I think, are critical, in my opinion, at the college level, because I think that if Dr. Long had not started the work with AQ, first of all, nobody would have ever known that we were already trying to do the active learning strategies in the education part. And so the leadership there, and then also the leadership at the top, I do think has to be there for any innovation to take root. I don't think you can do something like this that's already people are already thinking, I don't want to do anything else. But I also think that one of the things that I admire about y'all is that all of y'all chose to do this. And when we started, we had a big pot of money into this. So we said we will take whoever volunteers. So we were glad to get people that actually volunteered, that went all the way through with the process. So your level, and the question I would pose to you, what did you see in this as a group? And what did you see that you think might be the most likely thing that might actually take hold for other colleagues that are surrounded by you? Remember, what you saw today was, basically a reading lesson, which is different, than what you're going to do in a biology class in some ways, but you still have to be reading in biology. So I think that, I'm just anxious to hear. Did y'all have a time to talk and kind of formulate your ideas, or do you just want to go one at a time?
Yeah, probably just one at a time.
Okay, so let's start with Gary, and we'll move around.
Okay, well, I think as far as, what I use in my classroom, would be a good fit in my classroom. I think the four corners technique was interesting. With, getting students to debates, discuss certain items and even maybe have debates on certain topics. You talk about diversity and, with the, in education and diversity with materials. And there's a lot of focus on racial diversity, but diversity means more than just race as well. It means religious and economic diversity. And, these are things that can be brought up in a group discussion that, you can have more than just racial diversity. And so those would be interesting things to bring up. I thought it was very well organized, the way with everything already out, and I thought it was very well organized, and the students knew what to do, and I thought the presentations of all the students were very well done, and as well.
Any suggestions or anything you would do, thinking about in your own work, Derek?
I mean, if I was going to suggest anything, probably, have broader talk about diversity, about, it not just being race, but being economic, religious, political ideology is a big thing now. And, teachers have gotten in a lot of trouble because somebody felt they emphasized one ideology over another. So these are big things that are coming up. So that would be about, I thought it was well done. That'd be about the only thing I would suggest.
Do you think you could try something like this on the diversity, like the political, aspects of all of this? Because you're looking at it through a different lens than I'm looking at it. These people are gonna teach like kindergarten through sixth grade students.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with the politics and all of that, but you also be given the food for thought. We do socioeconomic work.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think of other ways, and that I would not have thought of that if you had not said it.
Mm-hmm.
To think of other things other than just the race piece.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
I enjoyed the opportunity to be here as an observer. I definitely enjoyed the IQ training and being able to implement some of those strategies. I feel like the four corners was very effective, active learning strategies for your students. What I particularly, the component I enjoyed the most was the multimodal instruction within the small group. They were able to have visual, audio, kinesthetic learning mode to be able to reach all of the students within their group. I even asked some of the students when I circulated, did they utilize the video? I like them being able to connect the author to the content and the documents that you provided. Also being able to write, to put it on paper in whatever format that they thought was best for them. I thought that was very interesting as well. It modeled a lot of what we saw in our training with AQ. I do utilize group work within the class setting, my face-to-face classes. However, this year I've been only online, so I feel implementing more with with my online classes. I have a weekly Zoom meeting with those students. So maybe implementing four corners within a Zoom meeting, putting them into breakout rooms and allowing them to do this in a virtual way. I think will be a great tool in helping the students to connect.
Tiffany, when you were watching this, did you think of anything specific, any topics in any of your psychology classes that you felt like this might work real well with?
I actually feel that it can be utilized for any sports content. If it's plain and organized as you did and as you modeled for us, whether it's the various psychological perspectives or different theories, it really can be utilized, providing that.
I've done it with theory before in Insight, and the kids really liked it, and they remembered what they talked about a lot.
I think it's just like you said, more the active engagement. On Four Corners and any of the other strategies that we learn, getting the students to be involved, student-led instruction. It makes a difference because we know what we know, we need to know what they know. And that's a great way for them to be able to show what they know. And that's what's most important, being able to make that connection, and that was very evident in their presentations as well as the takeaways. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just some of my thoughts on what I saw the students. One thing that I took away is that they all, in somewhat different ways, put personal context for their learning, whether it be an engaging question that got us thinking about, sort of their approach to the question, or the great graphics that they presented. And so one thing that I was just kind of thinking about last few minutes is I'm not sure how, when you're wanting the takeaways from this lesson, is the question that you pose, just sort of them thinking about that, a takeaway, but also getting them knowledgeable about each of the four authors or teachers, because you could build in an expectation of the non-presenting groups to provide, to ask questions. I mean, there's really in this, if you just stepped away from today's lesson, is how could you assess how the three groups know or understood the authors that they did present.
That's interesting, because that kind of fits with something that Rhonda said too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's.
Did you write that? Did you write that?
I did write it down. I was just sort of thinking about that sort of thing about the whole thing. Because, in biology, and this is one of the big takeaways that took away from AQ, is sometimes I may have to let go of some content. I may have to, do my cold dead fingers almost, like, okay, maybe they don't need to know every aspect of,
And that's so hard.
the prep cycle.
Yeah.
But if I do something like this, I find it hard to do this, because how can I assess their, sort of in a formative way, their understanding of what they did present on. So, and I don't want to get answer. But on this topic, I felt this was a great way, because and this is something that I'm really starting to assess in my teachings. I mean, yes, the content is good, but just as important is that we need to develop the critical thinking skills better. This is when we want to do that. And so, even though this method, this method could be good from, Mandy and I were talking about this, is maybe not in the volume 101 class, but in classes like when I teach ecology in the future, like more, like conservation questions, like ethical questions, that have a biological focus, just to get them thinking of, critical thinking, even if they're may not personally believe in the stance they're proposing and trying to defend. Sometimes that's even better from a critical thinking standpoint, but there are other engagements, things I learned from AQ that I'm trying to implement now, like the skeleton notes.
I love skeleton notes. I have used it with one of the chapters.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could see on my.
I saw that, and I've asked my students, those that had me last semester when I didn't use skeleton notes in 101, and I've taken 102 where I implement it, how they like it, and they say yes. It hasn't necessarily put it into exam grades yet, but I'm hoping it will.
Yeah.
And really the value of it is to try to build that that note taking skill. So in the upper classes, like, anatomy, physiology, they don't have the skills to build their own instead of me providing for it. I know that's a little off topic, but just trying to put,
No, I
want
want
to
to hear, like, I think it's important, like, you know, 2/3 of professional learning is what I'm gonna do tomorrow, that I wouldn't have done if we hadn't been here.
yeah,
And I really like the idea that you're thinking already of other courses that you might be able to do this kind of thing, and where it's, you know, and I totally agree, like, I think the hard sell on all of this at the college level is, I think people are really, they're very content driven, and that's a good thing. But, I also love what you said about, not just love it, but I believe it, the critical thinking aspect of it.
yeah, I mean, and, you know, that's why, yeah, I try to not only build the content, build critical thinking skills, but just like technology skills, like, you know, I've realized that we need to do some just like Excel stuff and math in that way, that can reinforce stuff they're taking in other classes. Hopefully really build those, you know, lifelong skills that they can apply in any career.
So one thing, Dr. Maxwell, when I did write it in my notes about the group as far as, because I felt like they were very engaged with their group, but when the others were presenting, some of them maybe were a little more distracted or maybe still preparing for their presentation. So maybe giving a prompt or a takeaway question so that you can maximize the learning opportunity, not just from their group, but maybe just a small, a brief summary or sentence from what they learned about the others as well, so that you can know that they learn about how.
Right, I love it, that's what it is that.
I'm gonna get nervous, that's me, but I've had the opportunity for the past couple of weeks to actually get to know this group, but I've been hanging out with Dr. McKay on Monday and Wednesday afternoons, and I'm sitting in for mine, and I love our topic today. I love how y'all just knew what to do, like, I just got in there and we did it, and that was amazing. But how I can take this from my own English classes, I think, is I love that we can come together in groups and build upon each other. And maybe with mine, they can really discuss ideas, make connections, and then bring it back out to one another. So we have more of a students learning from students. And I think that is a whole purpose, maybe, not a whole purpose, but an important part of active learning. Is that our students are actually learning from one another, you know. And sometimes they learn better from their peers. Maybe they're scared of me or whatever, you know. Maybe I didn't say something correctly, or in a way they understand each other and our peers, you know, they talk with us, they learn from each other. So yes, I definitely plan on bringing this back into my 101 and my 102, and I would love to learn about your breakout rooms. I need to do that.
We'll learn together.
Yes, because in my 101 and 102, we are kind of doing in-person, so all together at the same time. So those classes will be kind of hard to do for my virtual students. Not hard, I can do it. I just have to figure out that breakout room. But that's how it is. And I kind of know, but I need to get better.
Do you think, could I?
Yes.
Because I'm interested in that too, do you think, I think it would work,
Yeah.
but I wonder if it would work for them, like, yeah, I think it would be very interesting.
It can work, and I know like the concept of it and how to do it, but actually implementing it is my issue. So I tried to do that, and I got myself into it.
We might not be able to reach an entire class because it will be depending upon who's available virtually at that moment in time.
Right.
But we can still implement it with those who are available.
Yes.
What we should do is do some professional learning and break out rooms.
Yes.
Right, it's with adults. That's what we should do.
Yes.
We could do that. I mean, I did a bit, to set it up and everything, I kind of felt like, I have not done it virtually, but I do think it's a great idea to do virtually. But I'm kind of can't get my head wrapped around it yet. But I'm willing to try it with a group if y'all want to do something.
Yes.
So you think you can pull it off? We're gonna have you watching us more in the class, so you'll see that, good ideas. How I miss some of the suggestions that y'all made. Sometimes it's hard for me, I don't know if any of the rest of y'all are like this, but sometimes I have a hard time. It's gonna take me a while to like the process, but the idea of having that opportunity, like when they were presenting, I should have had some kind of sheet for them, or some kind of way for them to have asked questions or given feedback. I think I should have done that differently. So lots of good information to organize it so that we kind of have our head wrapped around four corners a little bit better than what, I thought the students did great. My facilitation needed a little help. So thank y'all so much. Now, I don't know what time we got, like a few minutes. So students, if you would, if you all could come forward, if you want to participate in a quick feedback. And it's not because you all are the least important, you're the most important. But my thinking was, I had no idea that anybody would stay for this. So I'm thrilled that you all are here. Teacher Leader, come on, Shamar. Pull up another chair, we gotta bring one more in. So we'll open up the floor, we'll do quick rounds, takeaways. What you got from this as a teacher candidate, how you think this might impact you if you actually did this. Now, we do public research lessons. Some of you've done a public research lesson. Shamari, have you done one? So the past group has done, a lot of the students did public research lessons and had feedback. But, so I'm just gonna open the floor and say to you, something that you're taking away and something you thought was interesting or any suggestions. Here, we'll start with you, we'll go around.
But this is really good. Picking up on what Dr. Payne said and Ms. Murray, about the counting off on the groups. I think it still would be the same as being a student because the education department is small, so we see each other like a lot. So we work with each other. She didn't know that, but we work with each other in a lot of places. So I think even if we count it off, it would still be the same outcome because we comfortable with all each other and we also have different like ideas as a class that's working with them. So I think it would be the same outcome with me personally. And also I do like the work on. I never did it in nobody class yet, so this is my first time doing it. So I think it was a good way to get the question because at first I was like, I don't know the question. I don't know the answer to the question. So as reading the article, I understood it better. And I also agree with one kind of putting the question up, but kind of help because I could forget the question. That's why I keep asking you what was the question because you was something totally different. But other than that, I think it was a good lesson. You do good on all your lessons. So it was pretty good. Have a good day.
David, tell us your perspective.
I just have to go back to with that. One, this is my first time presenting in front of a crowd like this, and honestly, I didn't expect myself to be this comfortable about some freeze, but honestly, it is like to be saying that it is learning and life changing because I'm glad you did keep repeating the question because we were busy and we were back. So honestly, it was pretty good.
Tomorrow and I go way back. I'm expecting her to take me downstairs too.
My big takeaway today was the 4 points. Like the DJ said, I was a little scared at first, but when I got up and started speaking, I got more comfortable. And every time you do a lesson, it reminds me of a previous lesson presenting things talked about. And so like what I learned previous, I can use for this lesson, plus what we learned today. And so when we took our little break with that, I was just talking, what if we had an active lesson, lesson class? And I was thinking I'd be more comfortable with communicating, speaking in front of the crowd, as well as expressing myself.
Well, I'm gonna put you down for the next public research. I think you need to do, dinner at Aunt Connie's house. What's the other one with the rest of the ball?
Overall, it was good. Actually, my first time this semester, going for the fourth period. I enjoyed myself. Overall, it was great. Even though I was nervous, talking in front of the crowd, but I really enjoyed it.
Well, my question is, nobody said anything about the videographers. Were y'all nervous about being videoed?
Yes.
I was really good.
You feel like you've been playing.
Oh, yeah, like Shamala said, the lesson, what we did today, all the previous lessons we did in class.
You know those, it changed me. I thought, whenever I didn't sleep like last night, and I thought, I had not said in the lesson that I was gonna show all the assignments. But I'm wondering from you all, from your perspective, if that kind of helped, or if you already just got it, that, there is a plan, everything builds on each other, it feeds into each other. But it came to me that I should put all of those assignments up so you all could see how they were connected. And then also, why I started with something instead of starting with this. We could have done this, you could have done it, you could have jumped in, but I had like a kind of a plan for the way that I've done the first semester. So thank all of you. Good, interesting comments. Jill?
Thank you, y'all. No, y'all made us feel real comfortable, and I appreciate that, because I'm not real comfortable usually. But no, I enjoyed today, and I do agree with this one, that it would keep everybody more engaged if we took a second after each presentation and said, what did you learn?
Yeah, that was a big,
what were you remember the most about?
I won't say it was a mistake, but it was a missing piece that I should have picked up on.
Right. Because you're only focused on the author that you chose, and did you get it right? Did you spell it right? Did you do all that stuff? But anyway, I think it all went well. It was very organized, as you usually are, and I enjoyed the communication that we all had. Everybody seemed to be comfortable with what they were doing, and I appreciate saying that we're going out on a limb by ourselves. We have done this in class before, and I got the same feeling that I actually learned more than, having to listen to a lecture over and over. Not usually get criticized for the notes that I take, because I tend to take a lot of notes, but it helps it to stick better, to comprehend more of what not only we're learning about authors, but we're learning about strategies and methods, and watching you as a pro doing what you want us to do and live up to do. And every time we have a class, you connect, and you say, okay, this is a strategy, you need to write this one down, or something like that we can use in our future classrooms.
do you all think that like when you do this stuff like the content and the process, you get it, don't you? I mean, everybody realizes that I do some kind of process and some kind of content. And I'm trying to model for you a process that you might be able to use in your class. And I don't know, I mean, I haven't been teaching college that long, but I don't know, it'd be interesting to know how that carries over into the classroom. I know what the research says. The research says you default to whatever the way that you were taught if you're not careful. Unless you're really, really passionate about remembering things, you do have a tendency to default. But all of us, all four of us are committed. And with Rhonda's help in these lesson studies, she's going to give us some really good feedback on things that we can do that will make it even more powerful than what we're trying to do. And that's the wonderful thing about the AQ and Dr. Long and Dr. Hawkins. Not every college would entertain this because it is, it might seem like fluff to some people, but it's actually the only thing that I think that might really make a difference. And I think it's particularly powerful for y'all because when I was your age, I never saw anything like this. I didn't know it existed. And so it is showing like, no matter how old you are and how good you are, you write a lesson, you teach a lesson, and you always need feedback. And today I had a couple of major takeaways, and I'm just going to try to implement those things and try to work it into the next things that we do today. So thank you so much. And we're going to ask Dr. Long if she will come and end the day for us and tell us as provost what she saw and what she heard that she thinks may be the most useful. I'm going to put you right here. Yeah.
I think that the day went well. The students did very well, and I took away some of the same observations that others have spoken. I particularly like the discussions with the different reasons for the choice, personal and educational reasons. And I thought that a lot of students shared that there was a sense of motivation with the different authors. So many different student perspectives to consider. And I like the references to literature and research and how it intrigued each person's interest. I really like the parents share that technique from AQ. What the teacher is doing. I like the observe, listen, respond, and affirm. That's what I termed it. Finding new ways to improve student learning. So suggestions from the day help teachers to improve student learning. Encouraging reflections for students and the reminding of the tasks that were at hand. I thought that another thing that I would like to see is maybe some split time. I called it compare and contrast. And so once you finish with your group, then you would go and visit another group of your choosing, and then you would compare and contrast why you chose one over the other technique. And so I thought that was good. And I thought overall it was good, and it helped me to even think about from an administrative perspective, how I could work with professionals and I guess in the like faculty, working with faculty, pairing and sharing, looking at different ways, and I would love to explore the breakout rooms. I have seen it work best with the women's conference. It was very good. You could go in and out on your own of the group. So I would love to see the breakout rooms. That would be great.
She was facilitating us in those rooms, she was putting us in.
Right. But I was able to go and click on which group I wanted to choose, and I would go straight into the breakout room.
Okay.
And I thought that was fascinating.
She put me in, but that's okay.
Yeah, the first time she put me in, the second time I could look at the list and I could choose which group, and I would just go straight to the breakout room.
You got Dr. Clinton and Dr. Ray and Caitlin Cox and do breakout rooms. I know we've got somebody here that can do it.
And so I thought that was, I thought being able to do that, and I could even go in and out of groups. I don't know if I had some other kinds of privileges, but I could go in and out of each group. I could sit in a group for 10 minutes and then I could go to another group. And so I thought maybe splitting time and comparing and contrasting would be a good thing.
I love, that is good language. I think, like visiting the different groups, maybe have two of the groups available in two breakout rooms and having the others move between those. I like that, and I think we will have time to do it before midterm.
Dr. Wong, I think, our school has the purpose of upgrading the room for the different breakout.
I'm on board.
It's in Canvas too, it is in Canvas, and I tried it, it's not as.
Sophisticated.
So Zoom, you would recommend Zoom over the Canvas?
The many meetings, Zoom meetings that we have, I think it would be worth it. But I think the students did an awesome job today. Dr. McKay did very well. And also our observers and knowledgeable others. I'm intrigued by what I heard today. Thank you so much.
Okay. May the force be with y'all. Go get some lunch. Y'all.